of the informal Council of the Foreign Ministers we had at the end of August. I know very well that this is important in itself. This is the first time Slovakia holds the presidency of the European Union. It does it in a particularly complicated time, and it does it in a wonderful way. So I would like, first of all, to thank all the Slovak authorities, but also all the Slovak people for a very warm welcome. This meeting we've had today is a very, very important one. If I can share with you a personal note that we actually didn't agree before. My heart and also part of my mind tonight was very far away from here. Was actually in Cartagena in Colombia, where a very important peace agreement was signed and where the European Union should have been present, but it was very difficult for me to take the decision. Still, I thought it was the right thing to do, to be here with all the European Union defense ministers chairing this important meeting, even if, again, our hearts and minds were and are with the people of Colombia in this moment for an historic and positive step. But why I say this? Because this has not been an ordinary informal ministerial. This has been an exceptional one because we have had on the table very concrete, very constructive, and I can say now, after we finished the meeting, common proposals and ideas on how to move forward on the European Union defence cooperation. We have a general agreement, a general consensus among all of us on the need to proceed in parallel with three pillars of this work. And we will do this from now to the end of this year, so from now to December. The first pillar is the implementation plan of the global strategy in the field of defence and security, and I will come to that in a moment. The second pillar is the work that we are doing together with the European Commission that is called the European Defence Action Plan, that will look particularly in the field of support to the industrial basis of defence in Europe, especially looking into research, technology, and all the incentives that the European Commission, for what its competence, can put in place to support this strengthening of the European defence cooperation. And the third pillar is something that we discussed today with Jens Stoltenberg, that, as usual, joined us in our ministerial meetings. That is the implementation of our EU-NATO joint declaration that we signed in July in Warsaw, and that is well on track in terms of turning from words to reality, to actions. And we have agreed today with all the ministers and with Jens that NATO and the European Union under our leadership will work at a joint set of proposals for implementation to present to our respective councils in December, so in parallel NATO and the European Union. The importance of these three pillars moving together, creating somehow a package on the European defence between November and December, is exactly to highlight what I had the honour to highlight already in front of most of you this morning, together with the NATO Secretary General, that the work we are doing to strengthen the European defence inside the European Union and the partnership with NATO are not in any possible way, neither in contradiction nor in competition, but actually reinforce our common work. We have full partnership, we have full complementarity, and we are going to strengthen this even more. You heard it from the words of the NATO Secretary General that I fully subscribe. A stronger European defence makes NATO stronger. And so we're working on that. Now, coming to our defence plans, our defence cooperation plans inside the European Union, this derives from the global strategy I presented in the European Council in the end of June. It was very clear to me from the very beginning that we didn't need only a paper, but something that could be translated into policies and actions. And one of the fields where I proposed immediate implementation is the field of security and defence. Let me stress, it's not the only one. Today we discussed about that with the defence ministers, but we have already proposals on the table that are being worked out with other formations of the Council when it comes to other aspects of the global strategy, strategy, and namely our work on conflict prevention, on building resilience in countries around us, but also on a full set of other measures we are working on in the field of foreign policy of the European Union more in general. So it's important that the defence part of our work is clearly integrated into a more comprehensive approach, as it is always the European way. We never take defence as one single part. We always work with a complementarity approach with other policies we put in place. On the defence part of the implementation of the global strategy, we agreed today, all 28, that we will move forward, presenting and preparing an implementation plan for November at the Council of Defence Ministers we will have in Brussels, a formal one, defining a common level of ambition of the European Union and the capabilities required, with some concrete actions and proposals to be identified by November. The focus will be on practical, concrete, operational, pragmatic steps that we can take within the existing treaties, as I suggested at the end of the summer. I'm very satisfied because we had, I think, a very in-depth discussion, a very open one, and a very fruitful one when we identified a common ground to move forward. I stress, because I can anticipate some of your questions, at 28. For the moment, the European Union has 28 member states, continues to have 28 member states, and this work, it's my responsibility institutionally to make sure that it moves forward as much as we can, as long as we can, at 28, and today we have found a common ground to move together in that direction. As Peter was mentioning, we also discussed in details with the NATO Secretary General about our work on implementation of the EU-NATO joint declaration. In a certain number of issues, we are already identifying clear deliverables to be done from now to December. We're sticking to a very, very strict timetable. But, you know, we've heard so many times that the European Union is slow. For once, we're pushing a bit, and I'm sure that member states will follow the speed. Also, we have had a very fruitful discussion with the UN Under-Secretary General and with the NATO Secretary General, so with our two main partners, the UN and NATO, on our missions and operations, in particular focusing on the one in the Mediterranean, Operation Sophia, on the work we're doing in Libya with UBAM Libya, our mission that is working mainly on border management and the security sector support, and also our work in the Sahel, where we have several missions that we are now regionalizing so that we can be more effective in responding to the needs of our partners in the Sahel, which is also a way of investing in our own security, because we know very well the neighbors of Europe, the frontier somehow, is not only the Mediterranean, is also the Sahel. Given the state of play in Libya, we have to invest where different threats are developing. And so this is exactly what we are doing, and we will be doing even more in cooperation and excellent coordination with the UN and with NATO. I'll stop here and be ready to ask your questions.
Thank you very much. Please, before you ask your question, introduce yourself and the media you're working for, and wait for the microphone. I'll start with the very back with Daniel over there.
High Representative.